This week on the show.
And I was like, and I just like keep seeing your name everywhere. Like I feel like we're supposed to work together or something.
Yeah.
And then it was so funny. Like he was just kind of like, huh. Like I would need to hear some music first before I even say anything.
Bryce Drew. And
then I played 21 for him.
Yeah.
And on the second line, his jaw dropped. On the second line. Wow. And when the chorus hit, he was just going like, wow. Here I am, 21, never been in love. Nothing to cry about, I know it will come.
Singer. Songwriter.
Entire queen bed to myself. I don't have to share the covers with someone else. It may not be how I pictured my 20s to be, but I won't let that get to me.
When I listen to your song, especially Me, it's like I understand you completely, and it's really, yeah, it was great. It was great to discover your music.
Well, I'm glad you found it.
Anything to call it a sign. And maybe I'm out of my mind. I see my lucky number everywhere I
go. Well, it started the day I was born. On October 19th, 1995. 19 inches long.
Let's talk to Bryce Drew on the Very Creative Podcast. Bryce Drew, how's it going?
It's going good. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for coming on the Very Creative Podcast, my podcast. Yeah, I really wanted to have you on because I think your music is really awesome. And I showed it to a couple of my friends, my best friend, and she was like, "Oh, you need to have her on. She knows singing, and she's been singing." And I was like, "Should I have this one on?" She was like, "Yeah, I love her style. I love everything." So good.
Wow, that's so sweet. Yeah. Tell her thank you for me.
Yeah,
that's so sweet.
No,
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, introduce yourself to everyone.
Hi, I'm Bryce Drew. Yeah. That's me. That's my name. That's who I am.
That's a great introduction.
Thank you.
No, but what do you do? And explain to people where you're from. And
I am a singer-songwriter. I'm from Miami, Florida. I live in LA. I lived in Nashville for about 4 years. Went to college out there. My family is from all over. My mom's from Trinidad and Tobago, and my dad is born and raised in Miami. So that's my background. And I've been out in LA making my record with Greg Wells for the past 3 years now, writing and developing everything. It's great. I mean, I'm not in LA right now. I'm in Miami because of COVID. But it's going good. We're taking our time and doing it right, and it feels good. It's a great team.
Yeah. Is it because LA is shut down, or what's the reason?
Why I'm in Miami, or what do you mean?
You just want to be with your family, everything?
Yeah, I mean, I was in LA alone most of the pandemic, and I hadn't seen my family in a year, so I decided to come for Thanksgiving and ended up staying because COVID was peaking and I didn't want to travel. Yeah. And I haven't seen them in a long time. So I'm just back in my childhood bedroom for a minute.
It feels weird, right? I've done that.
It does feel weird because I know that it's not a permanent thing, but it's like I ended up like redoing the entire room because I couldn't bear to like wake up and feel like a teenager again. I was like, I'm going to rearrange everything and paint the walls and trick my mind.
Oh boy. Yeah.
But it's good. I haven't been to Miami in a long time. So I know I probably won't get the chance again to be here.
Yeah. Has it changed your creativity at all, or has it helped that? Or
Oh, totally. I wouldn't say that it's helped it.
yeah,
Well, first, I feel like when you're out of your creative zone, it takes adjusting to like get back into it. And for me, I mean, I was creating alone. Like I had a whole apartment to myself. To go from that to like being with my family and puppy and people I haven't seen in forever, all around wanting to do things and be together. It makes it hard to put to separate the time and the balance, and especially because for me, like I know I haven't seen my aunt and my uncle, and like in a long time. So, and I also don't know when I leave here, when the next time I'll be back. So it's like you have to figure out what comes first, and these past couple of months have really been a lot about family for me. So
yeah, COVID's been really like it put things into perspective for me at least. It's just like learning about what you've got. Like I knew that I've got great people and everything, but it's just learning about like my mom is so important to me, and everything like family is so important to me, and I knew that, but now I really know, and it's yeah, it's great. And you learning also that you have one life to live, and it's especially right now, it's you could catch a virus and it can't like so somehow maybe it won't go well, and I don't know, it's scary times. So yeah, just put things into perspective, I think.
definitely.
Yeah. So let's talk about you growing up. So you grew up in Miami. So you said you don't remember a time when music was not in your life. So describe a little bit about your how did your music thing happen growing up?
I mean, I've literally been singing since that exactly. Like I can't remember. My earliest memories singing were like Somewhere Over the Rainbow with the Wizard of Oz and my grandma playing it on TV and stuff. But I mean, I was completely obsessed with music and singing everything all the time. Joined the choir in elementary school. I remember at the time it was like the only songs, if you wanted to sing, that you were allowed to sing if you wanted a solo, were the Carpenters. So I went home and learned the Carpenters Gold record from front to back until I got all of the solos in school.
Wow.
I still know them by heart.
Oh,
and then I ended up going to middle school and high school for choir as well, but they were art schools. So I would spend at least like 2 to 4 hours of my school day was based in music and classical primarily. And classical and Broadway, because that's usually what it is in school. And then when I was 15, I got a guitar for my birthday.
Yeah.
My brother played guitar, and I was kind of like, I'm a singer. Why are you the one playing guitar? And it's so funny now because I look back at videos of him playing guitar, and it was really not great. And he'll say that too. I'm not like dissing my brother here, but it was like out of tune, like just banging the guitar. And I was like, that's so inspiring. And it was, though, he was like determined in going after it, and he loves music too. And I got a guitar for my 15th birthday, and at the time,
what happened to the guitar? I heard there was something that happened to the guitar.
Yeah, so like I tried to play it, and I was like, oh wow, this is really hard. Like my fingers were killing me, and I was like, I can't do this. And I put the guitar under my bed.
Right.
And I just wasn't motivated to pick it up, because I think the hardest part about playing guitar is starting. It is that first big patch of like, you have to put the hours in to build the stamina up and to like get your calluses ready to like just easily coast on the guitar. It's a physical thing that you need to like the endurance, you know?
Yeah.
And I just wasn't into it. And I was in love with the guitar, with the sound of it, but I was like, I guess like I can't play guitar. And then I just 15 to 16 was a really an intense year in my life. I had lost a lot of people close to me, one after the next in my family. And my grandmother had Alzheimer's. And I learned guitar so that I could play for her. So I would go and play for her at the nursing home.
Right.
And there was this big moment for me where we thought we were losing her, and we all went to go say goodbye. And I brought, last minute, I wasn't going to, my mom was like, you should bring your guitar. So I brought my guitar and I played for her, and she was unresponsive all morning. And after I stopped playing, she responded and told me she loved me and asked me to play her another song, and stayed alive for another 5 to 6 months. Jesus. And after that, I was like, holy shit. Like, I was like, music is crazy, and this is what I want to do with my life. So that, like 2 months after that happened, I wrote my first song, and my life was chasing songs that I felt were powerful and could move people the way that I saw that happen. And that's kind of my core and where everything comes from for me, you know, the beginning of everything.
That's so powerful. That's so beautiful. You mentioned your first song. What was that like, writing your first song and looking back, comparing your music?
Nothing stays buried forever, especially not the past.
Yesterday is Not Yet Gone, a mystery novel by GabrielVeiga, host of the Very Creative Podcast. Available now, paperback and digital. GabrielVeiga.com. Buy it now.
Yeah, you mentioned your first song. What was that like, writing your first song and looking back, comparing your music? What do you think of it?
Well, it is actually pretty funny because I go back and one of the lines was, I don't need love to write this song. And all of my songs have something to do with that. And it's really funny because it's like I have grown and changed, and that was next year to be 10 years ago.
Right.
But it's still me, and you can still hear me in it. Yeah. And it was like finger picking guitar, me being like, everything's going to be all right. Like, just be yourself type of thing that you say when you're 15. But I mean, it's sweet to look back on. Would I ever release it? No. But I remember being so excited. Like, my parents went out of town. They were like in New York for a weekend, and I was here, and I just wrote the song while they were gone. And when they came back, the minute they walked through the door, I was like, I did something. And I put it on the speakers, and it was like this huge big deal. Like, wow. They came home to it, and it was so funny. Like, my best friend used to live across the street, and I ran across the street and played it for her and for her family, and she started crying. And then it was just like, I think when I think about all of that, I'm so grateful that I had all of that support around, because it's like, when I listen to the song, like I said, like, it's cute and sweet, but it's not like, holy moly, that's a song, you know? So the fact that they all heard it and were like, yeah, you can build something off of this, and you have something there that's worth developing, you know, to be excited about and make me excited about, is incredible. It really is, you know?
Yeah. And that was the start of it. And yeah, you should look at that as So it's such a great moment, such a wonderful moment. I can relate to you because I'm a writer, and I remember my first scripts that I have written. They weren't that great and showing my family, but my mom still enjoyed them, and she was reading all of it, and she was like, "Yeah, go, go, go! You're talented and everything." And I kept going, and I'm still doing it 12 years later. You know?
That's amazing.
So it's all about that first thing that you do and the encouragement that you get from the people around you. And
it's so important.
Yeah. Who's your biggest cheerleader in your family?
My biggest cheerleader. I can't say one.
Or all of them.
All of them. My mom, my dad, and my brother. And my godmother is a painter. She introduced me to Joni Mitchell when I was a teenager.
Yeah.
After I started writing, and Joni became a huge influence because of her. And she's also an artist too, so you can talk in a certain language. But my dad is like everywhere. Every time he's driving, the windows down, he's playing my song. He's like at a restaurant, and he's like, "Hey, this is my daughter," and like putting his phone up to, he's a real dad.
Are you embarrassed by that?
Yeah, but I let him do it when I'm not next to him,
Yeah.
It gotta be. My mom is amazing too. Everybody, I can't compare them. Like, they are all my biggest cheerleader in their own different ways,
Yeah.
My mom is a creative herself too.
That's what I was gonna ask. Yeah.
Yeah, she was in marketing and advertising.
Okay.
And she's a creative director. So I grew up going on like photo shoots and stuff with her, and she's like a visually creative. So she's great when I want to, like, obviously with my artistry, like everything has to do with visuals too. So it's nice having that, being able to soundboard off of her. And she's super honest as well. It's like, I'm grateful that I have super supportive family, but while they're like, you have something to develop and stuff, they were never like, "Oh my God, you are the best thing in the entire world." And like, you know what I mean? Like my mom, everyone's very honest.
Yeah.
They're very honest. So
that's good.
Yeah. And my brother is in stage. He sets up stages, like he does lighting and sound and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. That's always interesting to me, because do you feel like that all the people that you had in your life that were already creative, do you feel that influence you in a way to be creative yourself? Because I didn't have any creative people in my life at all.
Yeah. I mean, none of them were in music, right? Like my brother and I were the first. It's really funny that we both ended up in music industry, but I think it was the fact that I have so many people in my family that are entrepreneurs, that are like, you can create a business for yourself and like chase an idea and make it a reality. That was a huge influence on me, because it was never, I mean, it was never like a push for me to find a regular job. It was like, I believe in your path that you see becoming a reality and a real thing if you create it,
Right.
So that was a huge influence. Definitely.
Yeah, because I didn't have any creative people. They were all businessmen, but like the business aspect of it, I have it now. Like I never wanted to go in any of what my mom was doing, my grandfather was doing it. They were like, I didn't want to do it, but it's still ingrained in me. And still hearing my mom today, like, or over the years, just dealing with people on the phone, like it just ingrained in me. And, I use that for my creative feel now. And I'm like, who am I? Like, I never wanted any of that. But yeah, it's so useful. So yeah, it's weird that. Yeah.
My dad's in real estate, so I grew up with that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God. It's weird. It's really weird. Yeah. And then you went to study Nashville after that?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
From Miami to Nashville?
From Miami to Nashville. So before I moved to Nashville, I was 16 when I wrote my first song. I started posting covers on YouTube.
Right.
And then there's an artist named Lauren Aquilina in England. She's my age. At the time we were both 17. And she posted online that she was like looking for people to support her in England on tour. And I posted a cover of one of her songs, and she was like, come play at my London show.
Oh, wow.
This was like one year of me writing songs. And I'm like, oh, like in high school, like, I'm flying to London to like play with this super cool independent artist. Wow. And that was my whole family, we're like best friends now. We both live in LA, and we're 10 years later. Like, it's crazy. It's super, super cool. But at the time she was like, you're crazy. Like, we were 17. It was her first show ever. And my whole family came. My mom, my dad, and my brother were all like, yeah, we're going to go. You're going to like skip school and go play at an underground like venue in England. And it was one of the best weeks ever. But
nice.
That show, because I was on stage with Lauren, and I knew that she had just released her first EP and like sold out a little show, and she was the same age as me. And she was so encouraging, just being like, you can do this. You just have to be strong-headed and just like make it happen, you know, and it's possible. And once I saw that, I was like, oh, I can do this. And then I was like, okay. A year later, I was like, I'm going to go to school for songwriting. Part of me didn't want to go to school at all, but my mom was like, you have to go to college. So I applied to a bunch of different schools, and I actually cried on the way. The first time I ever went to Nashville to look at the school, I cried because I was like, what the heck? Like, Nashville? Like, I'm not country. Like, I just want to be in England doing like pop folk music. And I had no idea what it was going to be like. Yeah. And then when we left, I was like, I'm moving to Nashville. Like, I'm in love with it.
Because you discovered that it wasn't just country, or what?
So I went to Belmont University, and they had a thing called Be Belmont Day, where they show you what the school is all about. And I had gone to see a couple other different schools, and the vibe I got when I went to go see Berkeley, or when I went to go see down here, they're both great schools, but when they were talking about their curriculum, it was so much about like who had been there before that was famous or whatever. You know, and at Belmont, it was like they put up together a mock class for us. Right. So I went in, and there were 10 potential songwriting students in a room with an instructor talking about songwriting, not about how good the school is, like literally telling you, look, I'm going to give you an intro class right now. And it was so insightful for me. At the time, I had only written like 5 to 10 songs, right? This is only a year and a half after I started writing. And it was taught by Bonnie Baker, who's a great songwriter. She did some stuff for like Hunter Hayes at the time. And she like gave us like 10 books we should read if we want to like think about writing. That she told us like, you just need to leave home and like chase it and like get yourself in that place where you can really like hunker down and create, you know, and how to go from writing like 5 songs a month to 20 songs a month, and like slowly building your goals up. And it was just, I walked out of there like, oh my God, I just got like a whole blueprint to like how to start, you know? And when I did that, I was like, wow, I get it now. Like, I can see how this could be beneficial to me, right? Rather than just not going to school. And
that's what you needed.
That's what I needed.
Yeah,
definitely. Because I hadn't written a lot of songs. And I did feel at the time, like most people who went to school for songwriting with me had been writing far longer than me. right? Like
Right.
I was there, I'd been playing guitar for 3 years and writing songs for 1.
Wow.
And people around me were like coming to Nashville every summer with their family to go into writing sessions and play gigs and like fully. And I felt like, okay, I've been singing my whole life, but like I just kind of started writing, and like it was really
like those kids were better than you, and
totally, which in the long run was a really great thing.
Yeah.
I'm happy that I was in a room where everybody was more experienced than me, because I learned how to collaborate with the right people, you know? And it pushed me a lot to just want to be, there was a standard, you know?
Right.
And so, so after that class with Bonnie, I walked out, and Nashville was so cute. There's like coffee shops everywhere, and people playing music everywhere. And coming from Miami, like the music around is great, but it's all Latin music, reggae music, party music, electronic dance music. And I'm like, I love that. I like grew up on that, but I'm a storyteller, and I need like venues where people want to hear the lyrics, not where they want to just dance, you know?
Right.
I'm glad to be in a venue where they want to do both. That's like, big fan of like lyrics and dancing at the same time. But Miami is like, I want to drink a pina colada and listen to Pitbull. So it was hard to be here. So it was very inspiring for me to be somewhere where there wasn't a stage. You know? Yeah. That's why I moved.
Yeah. And throughout your university career or path, what are the biggest lessons that you've learned that you're still carrying with you today in your music?
Oh my gosh, there's so many. I think the one I always try and remember is like, there's always inspiration if you look for it. Right. Like especially this year, I feel like it's been a really stagnant year, but it's like, if you show up and you're like, you know what, I'm gonna like, this is one thing we used to do in class all the time. My professor in our first songwriting class would have us sit down the first 10 minutes and open Twitter and scroll through Twitter and write down 10 song titles just as an exercise. Find it in people's tweets because it's so conversational. And we used to do that. And I always thought it was so genius, because it's like, usually you scroll through something like that and you're just like relating to it and like laughing or retweeting it or whatever. You're not thinking like, oh, that's a good song, right?
Yeah.
But that taught me, like, when you feel dry and you still want to create, it's possible to find things, you know, you just kind of got to put your mind to it.
Right.
That's one thing. What else?
That's a weird and wonderful exercise.
Yeah, I loved that. What else? This was a funny one. And one time, we were assigned to write a song in the complete opposite genre of what we normally do.
Okay.
And see what happens.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I was assigned to write a club song. It was awful.
You knew that because of Miami?
Well, that's why because it was like, I was so not that they were like, I want to hear what it sounds like, you know, because they know it's in me, but it's just like, I'm so like, I don't want to do that. But it was like, we were told either to write a country song, a Christmas song, or a club song, whatever is the most opposite. I feel like Christmas probably would have been the easiest.
Yeah.
And country. Because, they're kind of similar. But
do you still remember the club song?
Yep. It was called Feelin' Lit.
Wow.
Yeah. And I put the photo was like a sweet potato fry, me smoking a sweet potato fry. But
oh my God.
And people actually liked it. People were like, you need to put this out. And I was like, nope.
Oh, boy.
My
You're
parents
gonna
loved
share
it.
it with us.
Am I going to share it with you?
Yeah.
It was like, it was like,
You don't have to if you don't want.
yeah. I don't, it's okay.
Okay.
Well, I mean, what I learned from that is that it's fun to like get out of your comfort zone like that. Like it was interesting to like experiment in a place I don't normally go in, and because of that I started recording my own music because I had to make a club song. You need to learn how to produce something. You can't write a club song on the guitar and turn it in. Yeah, because I did that, then I was like, oh, I can make my own demos. I can produce. So get out of your comfort zone because you don't know what else you're capable of until you try, you know?
Yeah.
And
you're
another
not gonna write
thing,
club songs anymore, are you?
I mean, I don't mind them actually. It's just like if it's like what I said before, if it's a good song, it doesn't matter what genre it is. It really doesn't.
Yeah.
I think you could write a great club song. If the lyric is great and the melody is great, it's a great song.
Yeah.
So I don't X out any genres anymore. That's
good.
Yeah. But that said, the other thing I would say is the biggest thing I learned from college is that everybody in this industry has a different path.
Right.
Because I spend every day in a class full of people who are all trying to do the same thing.
Right.
And all of us went different ways.
Mm.
So, like, when I was there in Nashville, the typical path to go is to write songs, write with a bunch of other people, not necessarily for anyone in the room. Like usually it's to try and send to publishers to see if other artists can cut them and just to keep building your catalog until people hear your name and you just make your way up into the industry as a songwriter.
Yeah.
And I had this big moment when I met my producer, Greg, that was like, oh, I don't need to do that. There's also the path of being an artist. Right. And I don't, like it was like because I was in Nashville and that just felt like it was the only way to go. Like,
right.
Because you see everybody doing that. And that's kind of the way the programs are built at the school to like teach you how to meet publishers and how to, which is great. Like there's nothing wrong with that at all, but it can be hard to see that there are different avenues to get to where you want to be in the industry, Mm-hmm. Like for me, it was hard. I went through a big period where like my songs, I didn't realize that the songs I was writing were so artistically me that nobody else would cut them.
Right.
And so publishers were like, what do I do with this? You know what I mean? So nothing was working until I met a producer who was like, why don't you record your songs? Like, hello, Right. Because I felt like, oh, I need to be a successful songwriter before I can go after my album. I always wanted an album. I always wanted to be the artist, but I thought that there was a step before that.
Right.
Right. So I really learned that in Nashville, where it was just like, you don't know which way you're going to go, and don't lock yourself in one place. Like continue to see who else you're going to meet, what other opportunities are going to come up, and just follow it as it comes along. The industry is so unpredictable. Yeah,
it is. Mm-hmm. It's the same for me. Like I thought I had one path, and it's not how life will take you. It's a weird but fulfilling road. When you start also making like big moves or big things start happening in your life, you're like, oh, okay, that even though it didn't happen earlier, now I understand why, because I needed to do this and this, and It's all about
Exactly.
what you have to learn, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. So what happened after Nashville? You left for LA right away, or?
So after Nashville, I stayed in Nashville for a year
Right.
after college. I graduated in 3 years. So the last year, I kind of split between Nashville and LA. I was going on writing trips with Lauren, who I was talking about before.
Yeah.
She was coming from England and she didn't want to go to LA alone. So she was like, come with me. And I had never been to LA.
Yeah.
And so I would go with her and we would both book sessions at the same time and like split an Airbnb and go work in LA. And I remember Lauren and I, the first time we went to LA, she was like, do you think you're ever going to move here? And I was like, nah, like maybe in 5 years if I have to, like if there's like a ceiling that I reach in Nashville or something. And then I moved. I think that like what happened?
Was it because you met Greg, or?
I did meet Greg. So the second trip, I went first in October, which was great. And my mentor in college, Jody, she worked with Greg on the Mika record. So she wrote Grace Kelly with him.
Okay.
I've known him for years and years. So she had always told me that she wanted us to meet and she thought we would have like good energy and stuff. And Greg was always really in LA and legit, and I was like a college student. And eventually she sent an email to him on the second trip out that was like, Greg, you need to meet Bryce, like if you have time for a coffee. And he didn't answer. And then a month later, I was like, hey, if you still want to do this, I extended my trip because everything in LA was going really well. And I was like, I had coffee with somebody who was like, are you leaving? I can like get you in a bunch of sessions. What's the rush back to Nashville? And I was like, you know what? You're right. And I trusted it. And I changed my flight that day and stayed for another 2 weeks.
Right.
And so I emailed Greg because Lauren had been like, Bryce, you need to like put yourself out there more. You need to like ask people for things. It's not going to happen unless you ask people. Because I'm like super quiet about I'm like super chill and don't want to make a big deal out of things. And Lauren's like, hey, you need to like ask. So the next day I changed my flight and I was like, you know what? Lauren's right. Like, I'm going to email Greg. So I emailed him and was like, hey, I'm still here if you wanted to meet. And within an hour, he was like, come to my studio tomorrow. And I was like, oh, okay.
Okay.
I remember the moment I got that email because Greg before he became my partner in this record and my mentor and just a big part of my life. Yeah. He was somebody that I still do, was somebody that I looked up to musically and would see him on the credits of all of like my favorite songs, you know. Right. I saw him speak at my school. I was like, who is this dude? Like, he's so inspiring. And he also had before I even met him, I saw him speak at my school and he was talking about being an artist and how that's a thing that you can chase, you know? So he had a huge, before I even started working with him. And so when he sent that email and was like, come to my studio for a coffee, I just remember being in the Airbnb and Lauren being behind me on the bed and me just like falling on the bed and being like, Greg just asked me to come to his studio tomorrow. Like, Greg Wells. It's just so funny to think of now because the whole thing was so spontaneous and like in the moment. And like, I went to his studio, we were talking about life for like an hour. And then he was like, hi, why did you want to like meet me so badly? Like, what do you want? You know?
Right.
And I was like, well, Jody told me that like we would have good energy together. Lauren said the same thing. Like he knew both of them really well.
Yeah.
And I was like, and I just like keep seeing your name everywhere. Like I feel like we're supposed to work together or something.
Yeah.
And then it was so funny. Like he was just kind of like, huh, like I would need to hear some music first before I even say anything. And
I hadn't heard
just
anything from you before
No.
that? Oh,
he had never heard anything. And he was like, because I told you, I'm like super chill. Like I don't like asking people for things. I'm like, and I really didn't. When I showed up at his studio, I was just like, it was an honor to be at his studio, just to know like, hey, I'm sitting in the same room. A lot of cool records were made that like makes me feel like it's just like great to be in his presence and in that energy of like where things happen, you know?
Yeah.
And he was excited to show me the studio and show, you know, but at that point it was like, because I'm not the person who walks in and is like, has my phone up and is like, let me play this. Like, that's just not me.
Yeah.
So he was like, I need to hear something. And I was like, okay. He was like, well, you didn't bring like, oh no, he was like, do you have like a link or something? And I was like, no, like, can I play live for you? And he was like, well, you didn't bring a guitar. And I was like, yeah, I thought that would be kind of forward if I just like walked in with a guitar on my back. And I was like, I also kind of figured you'd have one because we're at a studio.
Yeah.
And he was like, okay, follow me. And he handed me this Martin and was like, is this okay? It was gorgeous Martin. And I was like, yeah, it's totally fine.
Yeah.
And he was being such a goof. Like he was like, are you sure you want to do this? You're about to play for the most intimidating person you've ever played for. One person. And I was like, I'm sure.
Oh my God. Way to stress you out.
It's really funny to look back on now because he's just like the coolest, most supportive person ever. Yeah. And I know he was just trying to see how I performed under pressure.
Yeah.
And that's what a good person, like that's what a good person in the industry knows that. Like,
yeah,
you need to be able to play under pressure or else it's just like probably not going to work. But it's really funny for me to look back on and it's still exciting when I think of the story. But at that point, we went into the vocal room, right? Like where you record vocals and stuff. And he was sitting directly across from me. And I was sitting where like a bunch of my heroes recorded vocals. And I was like, oh my God, like not like the movies and like One and Only were written right here. And I was like, oh shit. Like I'm about to play my song now. And then I played 21 for him.
Yeah.
And on the second line, his jaw dropped. On the second line. Wow. And when the chorus hit, he was just going like, wow. And I was just like, oh my God. Like, just playing the song and like looking at him and just like seeing it register with him and feeling it register with me being like, is this actually happening? Like he likes it. Because he told me if he didn't like it, he would stop me.
Right.
Because he didn't have time. He has work to do. And like, he was like, I don't mean anything by it, but like, I don't want to make you keep playing if I don't think it's something that I love, you know?
Right.
And I was like, I really respect that, you know, like I'd rather you be honest with me than just like keep listening and
make a fool of yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. And so when I finished, he was like, a lot of people need to hear that. He was like, do you know what you just did? And I was like, oh my God. I was like, thank you. Oh my gosh. And he was like, no, thank you. Like, wow. And he was like, that's really beautiful. And he was just like, play another one. So then I played another song that's not out yet. but we did record it. And after that song, he was like, I want to make your record. And I was like, huh? And he starts apologizing. He's like, did I say something? Like, did I say something too fast? Like, I'm not trying to I'm just like spitting stuff out because I haven't been this excited about something in a long time.
Now he was kicking out.
And I was like, I'm just processing. This is like a lot. Like, what is your record? What do you want it to sound like? Who do you like? And I was like, I was like, not electronic.
Not club.
Not club, not feeling lit. Well, at that time I was in LA and I was writing top lines for tracks, and I just wanted to do stuff on my guitar and on a piano and just like raw things. And I knew that he knows that world, right? So, and that's my world, that's his world. Boom, it's our world together now.
Yeah.
But so after that song, he said that, and then he was like, play another song. So then I played Love Life.
Right.
And he was like, I loved everything, and let's work together. The next day, when I left, he's like, get out of here, but come back. And then
it's like a love story.
Yeah. And then I remember walking out and calling my parents and being like, I think I'm making an album. Like, what's happening? My life just changed. And
how did they react to that?
They were like, what? And they called my brother. They put it on a 3-way. They just like, it was funny. And the next day, there's an email on mine that was like, this is the details. Like, if you want to like sign a production deal and like get a record going. And like 2 months later, he was in Nashville. We had breakfast and he was like, I was like, should I move to LA? And he was like, if you're willing to. I was like, okay. And then I moved in a month. I was like, I'm going to go make a record. Like, whatever. Let me just pack everything up and just go. And I did. And it was the best thing I ever did. That was a really exciting time.
Wow.
Yeah.
It must be so magical to look back on.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. I'm really grateful that I found him. And I mean, like you said, it sounds like a love story. I feel like a producer and an artist have to have some sort of chemistry, like obviously not in a love story kind of way, but in a way that like you're talking about your songs, like for an artist and a songwriter, like it's your whole life that you're trusting with somebody to present it and to make it sound good, and to like you have to have some sort of you get me moment. And we have that, you know, so we trust each other and it works really well. And he's like, obviously you could tell by a story that he's like a super honest dude and super supportive at the same time. And I feel like it's kind of like what I was telling you with my family, how it's like they're encouraging and tell you like where you could go, but they're also like, hey, you got to fix that. And that's like not your best, but keep going. He's that same kind of way of pushing me to be a better artist and directing me to where I need to go, you know?
Yeah. I'm sure you're really grateful of like, cause you could have stumbled upon someone that wasn't that nice. Like that wasn't that kind, but still wanted to sign you, and the relationship wouldn't be that great, you know? And
I feel very lucky for that. And I had worked with a lot of producers before. Like I was writing all the time and working with producers every day, and you could just immediately tell the difference about how much he felt the songs and cared about getting the music right, you know, and capturing me in the song, you know. But it's the same thing. It was like he was the one who said, "Where is the Bryce Drew record?" He was the one who said that, who reminded me like, hey, I was 22. He was like, you know what I mean? It's like, hey, you're 22 years old. Start making your record now.
Right.
Why not? you know, it doesn't really matter if you make it at 22 or 30, but it's like,
Yeah.
you might as well. What's stopping you from, why are you still waiting to get better, you know?
Yeah. I mean, you're gonna keep getting better, and that's the beauty of it, but you should start somewhere, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I'm grateful I didn't start 10 years ago, because I wouldn't want those songs out in the world, but I feel like I spent so long writing and developing it, like especially in my years in Nashville. I was just writing every day and writing hundreds of songs. And it's like, after you do that, and there are a few that stick around and feel honest to you and don't get old, you just put them out, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. I'm just blown away by your story.
Oh.
Yeah.
Thanks for caring.
No, you're amazing. You're unbelievable. Yeah. So talk a bit about your song. You have 3 songs out right now.
Mm-hmm.
So talk about 21 first.
Nothing stays buried forever, especially not the past.
Yesterday is Not Yet Gone, a mystery novel by GabrielVeiga, host of the Very Creative Podcast. Available now, paperback and digital. GabrielVeiga.com. Buy it now.
When I was younger, it all seemed so simple. Thought meeting someone was inevitable. I'm not talking diamond rings, just looking for someone who gets me. Here I am, 21, never been in love. Nothing to cry about, I know it will come. But it's all that's on my mind in the middle of the night, 'cause I thought I would find that little light in my life by the time I was 21.
21.
That was the song he heard the first time.
That was the first one he heard.
Yeah. What was that process of writing that?
That song, I had the guitar first.
Yeah.
And the lyrics were completely different. It was about something else at first. And I hated the lyrics. And that day, I was calling my friends to hang out, and they were all out on dates.
Right.
Every single one of them. And my roommate went out with her boyfriend as well. And I was just home alone with my guitar playing this song. And I loved the guitar and I hated the lyrics. And I was like, that's not what I'm feeling. And then I wrote 21.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, this is me being honest. This is just like where I'm at right now. Like, I was 21 and I was seeing everybody else fall in love. And I also had just gone on like there was this guy that I was seeing, and we had gone on a couple of dates, and it was like, and I had told him that I had never been in love before. Right. And like a few days later, he ended things. And it was my 21st birthday. And I had thought like, oh, I'm going to reach 21 and like finally be able to say that like I'm in a relationship and I met somebody.
Because
it
your
didn't
parents
happen.
fell in love at 21, right?
Yeah, my parents met at 21. So I always thought that was going to happen. Adele over here was a huge influence on me. This is my childhood bedroom. So there's still a big Adele poster on the wall. She was a big influence to me growing up and a huge reason why I started. And I mean, when I think I always had in my mind, like my parents met at 21, this album about like a huge love and heartbreak is 21. Like the same thing, like the guy I was with, I met him at 20. It didn't work out. I reached 21 and was still single. And I just like had thought that I would get there. Yeah. And be able to feel this shift in my life that I didn't, you know? Yeah. And so I wrote that song. Yeah. Yeah. I
I was gonna ask what's your relationship with love, but you just described it. Because I feel like when I listen to your song, especially Me, it's like I understand you completely, and it's like it's like you speak my language in terms of like I didn't have anything relationship. I mean, I'm still single, like still looking for love. So it's yeah, I get it, and it's really well, yeah, it was great. It was great to discover your music.
Well, I'm glad you found it.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that and for telling me that you relate. You know, like I know you hear my music in a different way than a lot of people do. So thank you.
Yeah. And you shared it Valentine's Day, I think, and you were like, "Oh, all the single ladies," but I was like, "Oh, I wanted to say, oh yeah, me too. I get it. I get it." Yeah. So talk about love life. That's also about love.
So I feel like the single ladies thing is more with love life for me than 21. Like,
oh yeah, you shared love life.
I actually get a lot of messages from. You would think it would mainly be women, but it's not.
Nope.
Which is surprising to me for some stupid reason.
That's the one actually that struck the chord for me.
Love life?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's the one
that's awesome.
Like, okay, I get it. I completely get what she's saying, and I was like, okay, yeah.
I have an entire queen bed to myself. I don't have to share the covers with someone else. It may not be how I pictured my 20s to be, but I won't let that get to me. Even though I know there's something missing, there are finer things in life than kissing. I don't need a love life to love life. I don't need a love life to love life. Ooh, I don't need it. I don't need a love life. I don't need a love life to love life.
That's the one
that's awesome.
Like, okay, I get it. I completely get what she's saying, and I was like, okay, yeah.
I love that. I really love that. I think
there's also like like a beautiful message in it. Like you don't need a love life to love life and to enjoy it and just to
keep going.
Yeah. It's I think that's an important message too.
Yeah, I think the two of these 21 and love life next to each other mean the most to me than they do on their own.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like they belong together as far as like, I don't think the message is completely clear for me to be like, I don't need a love life to love life without saying like, hey, I still do want love eventually. And I believe in it and I love it. Yeah. But like right now it's not happening. And I'm not just going to like sit around here and be like, oh my God, poor me.
Right.
When I can like continue living my life and like having amazing days and making my surroundings beautiful and traveling and having good friendships and being with my family and in the weather and whatever, like all of that, that's the way that I live my life. And, and I always think I don't know, like I have people who ask me like what it's like to be single and have all of this time. And it's just like, there's still a lot of life.
Yeah.
You know, like there's still a lot of life out of a relationship and you don't need to wait for it. So I just kind of.
You learn to love yourself too.
Learn to love yourself and you learn what makes you happy and what you need to
it's so important.
Keep going, you know? So that's really what the message is in my song. And what I wanted to put out there as, I guess not necessarily, although I do feel like it's empowering for single women, but for everybody, you know? Yeah.
So do you feel?
But I actually wrote Love Life before 21.
Okay. Wow.
People usually ask me how I got, like I'd get messages from people that are like, hey, just like looking for advice that are like, how did you get from 21 to Love Life because I'm trying to get there.
Oh, boy.
And I'm like, I actually went the other way around. Like,
You released 21 before, right?
I released it before, but I
that's why
wrote
it's
Love
confusing
Life
to people. Yeah.
Yeah. But even when people would see me live, they were like, how did you get from that to that? Like, that's where I want to be. And I'm like, well, I actually went backwards. So.
Yeah. Are they putting down 21? Is that what's happening?
Are they putting it down? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
They're just saying it's like sadder, which it's just realer.
Yeah.
It's more honest. Totally. It's like, I thought I would have that by now. And Love Life is like, I don't need it. Like, it's fine.
Right.
But yeah, I went from being like, I don't need it to, I feel it now. Like, I feel the absence. But yeah, I don't even know where I was going with that. But I wrote Love Life first. It was the same thing after the same relationship. It wasn't even a relationship, whatever. The same guy.
Yeah.
When he ended things, I was just like, I don't need a Love Life. What are you talking about? And so I wrote Love Life.
Yeah.
And it was the same thing. I had the guitar. No, actually, I had the I don't need a Love Life to Love Life lyric.
Yeah.
And then I wrote the guitar part. And I was like, oh, that lyric that's sitting in my notes would work really well with this funky, fun guitar thing.
Yeah.
That just feels like for me, it's just like so happy and like joyous to play. And they just kind of went together, you know?
Yeah. Do you feel like, because I'm a writer and I feel that sometimes when I live something that's giving me anger or like those emotions, I tend to like sit down and want to write something about that and the person that hurt me or the things that hurt me. And I kind of learned from an experience that like I was writing at some point and because something had happened to me and I was like, this isn't good at all. This isn't good at all. This is just me like, but it's
venting
therapy and it's great and everything. I don't say don't do it, but like it wasn't good for me. It wasn't like the best writing I've ever done. So how do you feel about your emotions dictating what you're going to write?
It's hard.
Yeah.
I mean, it depends on the day. Sometimes I can't. Sometimes I have the words. Sometimes I don't. Like sometimes it's just
you feel
melody.
It always good or always
no, sometimes it's awful. Sometimes I think it's good because it's honest.
Right.
And then I send it to Greg and he's like, this isn't your best work. And I was like, really? Like my whole heart is in it. And he's like, the lyrics are great. It's not good. And I'm like, okay, on to the next. Just gotta like put my heart away.
Yeah.
But you get over it and you like magic like that doesn't always happen. You just got to keep going, you know?
But it's okay. I feel like
it's
to write that thing that your emotion dictate. And even if it's not going to go anywhere,
you did it for you.
Yeah, you do it for you. And I feel you need that to write the next thing that it's going to be great. Because
I completely
otherwise
agree.
You're going to think about that for forever. And
I mean, you don't know what you're going to write. You really don't. It's just like what I did with 21. Like it was another song before. I don't even remember the other song. My emotions brought me to what it is now.
Right.
But I have a lot of songs that are just emotional vomit that are just never going to see live day and nobody would want to listen to them anyway.
It's a great way to describe it. Yeah. Emotional.
I mean, even I don't want to listen back to them now. At the time I did. At the time I was like, I feel this. And now I'm like, that's pretty boring. And I get it. I get why I did make the cut. So yeah, I think it's just, I do struggle with like, I like to edit my songs as I write them. And I feel like that's like the worst way to get stuck when you're writing alone. Because I mainly write alone.
Yeah.
So
I edit too when I write.
It's the worst. I
It's the
advised
worst.
completely against it. Finish.
Yeah, me too.
I say that, but I still do it. Yeah.
Exactly.
It's hard. But it's like I guess what I'm just trying to say is like, just write down if it's good, it's good. If it's not, it's not. Like, just get it out and you'll figure it out after, you know?
Yeah. I'm such a perfectionist though that I want it to be the best on the first try, you know?
Totally.
I don't want to do like 7 drafts.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to get it over with.
Yeah.
No, I get it. So talk about your last song that you have out, Lucky Number. Do you have a lucky number?
Yeah, it's 19.
Yeah.
I say it in the song once.
Yeah.
I see my lucky number. I see 19. I see my lucky number everywhere I go, and I know I'm where I'm supposed to be. I swear it follows me down every road. Always shows up just when I need to know that I'm where I'm supposed to be. I'm where I'm supposed to be. I'm where I'm supposed to be. I'm where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah.
Well, it started the day I was born. On October 19th, 1995. 19 inches long.
Oh my God. Wow.
There's so much with the number. I mean, that's a thing. On my move to LA, when I decided to do everything really quickly, I was seeing the number 19
Yeah.
everywhere. Like
Wow.
all the receipts, all the license plates, like the clock, everything.
Oh my God.
My zip code at home, where I am right now, adds up to 19. My zip code in my new apartment in LA adds up to 19.
Right. Wow.
There's a lot more.
You picked that, right? That one?
No, I didn't
No?
pick it. It
didn't
just
pick it?
after I moved there.
Really?
I was talking to my dad about the number 19. I always, like, if I see it on the clock or whatever, I'll screenshot it and send it to him. But he told me, he messaged me one day and was like, "Oh my gosh, Bryce, did you know that your zip code at home and at your apartment add up to 19?" And I was like, "You're joking. You have to be joking. Like, there's no way." And then I was like,
Wow.
"You're kidding me." And it's
Oh my
just like
God.
a thing. But then COVID happened and I was like, is 19 really lucky? And I was like, you know what? It's a sign. It's a sign that it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Everything's going to be fine.
Yeah.
But Greg and we wrote Lucky Number together, and numbers were like one of the first things we like bonded over, because I remember we were recording 21 and I was like, "Are you a number person?" Because we were talking about 21, and
Right.
because he was like, "Isn't it funny that like I worked with 21 Pilots, I was on Adele's album 21, and now we're recording
wow.
your song 21?" And I was like, "Huh, that's really weird." And then he told me his crazy story about 11. He's really connected to 1111, and then we just started doing the whole 1111 thing, and like just numbers were
That's a
like,
weird one that everybody has.
everybody has it.
Yeah.
But he has some crazy stories.
Wow.
But like, so I actually started writing Lucky Number when I was moving to LA.
Yeah.
I was staying at my friend Caroline's house. I didn't have a place to live yet, and I was just like hoping for a place to live. And I wrote that the first verse all the way through the first chorus there.
Yeah.
And I voice memoed it, and I never finished it. And Greg and I, it's the first time we ever wrote, really. Greg, a year later, was like, "Hey, I have this session at Sunset Sound, which is a really awesome studio in LA. this company, Pure Mix, wants to film me with an artist for 3 days in there writing. Like, I really want you to do it with me. And I was just like, okay. And so
How can
Pure
you
Mix,
say no to that?
I know, but at the same time,
Yeah.
it's pretty scary to
Intimidating.
write with somebody for the first time in front of a full film crew, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but we did it and it was the best. And Greg was like, bring some ideas in. We had breakfast right before we went to the studio, and I played the voice memo of Lucky Number for him. And he was like, we're going to do that. He loved it. He connected with it. And then we went in that day and wrote the rest of the song. And it's all filmed on Pure Mix in like a 12 episode series.
Yeah.
And we recorded it. We recorded at Sunset Sound that week. And then it was the first song out because the series came out. And everybody wanted the song out. And I was like, well, it might as well be the first one, because people had already known it, and it just made sense to come out at the same time as the series. And it felt like a nice, sweet intro to my story. And but if you listen to it, it's like the place that Greg took that song is so magical. Like, the bridge didn't exist before him,
right?
And if he wasn't there, like, it would have been so much more boring. Like, he was just like, let's go to this chord. And I was like, whoa. I was like, whoa, I have like backing vocals in my head. And it just became awesome. And so sometimes songs happen fast. Sometimes you write the beginning of them and a year later it's there. And it's like totally something more than you expected it to be.
Yeah.
And it was, so that was the first song out. It came out a year ago.
Yeah.
A
what
year
was
ago,
the
last
reaction
month.
after that?
It was great.
Yeah.
I mean, everything started growing from then on. Like,
yeah.
I think it was really cool for me that there were so many people that like followed along the process of us creating it. Like, from writing all the way, like adding every single instrument, recording the vocals, like people were watching all of that. So it felt like they were part of a journey. I mean, it was really cool for me to feel like there were all these people along with us in the studio that now feel connected to this song,
Right.
So that was awesome. And I know that's a really special experience that for them, and just for me as an artist as well, to have people that have been in the studio with me technically,
Right.
really cool. And so that song came out last February. We recorded all 3 music videos last February as well.
Before the pandemic.
Yeah. Like 2 weeks before the
lucky.
pandemic hit. I know.
Did you record them on the 19th?
No, that would have been amazing. Wow. No, but the first song came out on the 19th.
Oh, yeah. Well,
Hey.
you picked that one. I'm sure
Of course. It's like, I had to put Lucky Number out on the 19th.
Yeah.
You might as well.
Yeah.
So we recorded 3 music videos right before the pandemic, and then the pandemic hit. And I was like, I remember being like, are we still releasing music? It's like, and I got so nervous. I mean, I do feel, I mean, it's like, it's nice to know that I wasn't the only artist that was like, oh my God, what's happening? I mean, everybody, and not only artists, obviously, or like, what's happening? But now looking back on it, it was just like, I was putting music out for the first time, and I spent years creating, waiting for that moment. And all of a sudden, I was planning a release show for 21. Totally, like, I remember the day the pandemic hit, being like, hey, I have to cancel the show.
Right.
And it was, but like, it obviously nothing was normal, but there is definitely something beautiful about the fact that I was alone in my apartment most of the year, and I started seeing my song travel, and I had never felt my music travel before.
Yeah.
You know, like I was seeing it, people covering it in Germany and Italy and reacting to Love Life in Portugal, and just like,
Wow.
I was just like sitting there in my room, like in the most like tumultuous time,
What a
feeling
crazy
it,
feeling. Wow.
feeling it connect with people, and seeing messages in my DMs like every day I was waking up to messages and covers. And I was just like, how is this happening? Like, and I think it was also special because like I'm super independent. It's like I have Greg, but it's just me and Greg. I'm like running everything. He's recording the music, and that's it. So the fact that I was getting that kind of connection from people was like so encouraging and inspiring for me to be like, oh, this is being heard, and there's not even a huge team behind it. And there's not, you know, like just to keep going. And just that people are, I think, like thinking back to what I said at the beginning of this, where like why I started, and connecting with people and healing and emotion and honesty, that was coming through in my music at a time like this, to the point of people wanting to reach out and tell me, was like, okay, you're doing something right, you know? And especially like when I wasn't able to like go play shows and feel like I was really living my purpose, like that was where I found it this year, you know? Like I don't know if I didn't have music out, it would have been very different for me this year, because I wouldn't have had any sort of connection with people with my songs. So
yeah, it's weird how the pandemic works, right? Like in terms of, because I took advantage of the pandemic too. Like I had a novel written that I began sending to publishers and to agents, and then the pandemic hit, and I was like, my mom was sitting in the living room with me, and she was like, people are reading online and buying books. You should just release it yourself and just see what that does. And I was like, I don't know. I don't know what to do. And then I just started the process, and I just released it. And
that's amazing.
Like, I was like, okay, whatever.
Hey, tell me more. What is this book? What is this?
I wrote a novel. It was 3 years in the making. It's a fictional novel about two female detectives.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So, what's it called?
It's called Yesterday Is Not Yet Gone.
Okay.
I'll send it to you. Yeah.
Yeah, please do.
Nothing stays buried forever, especially not the past.
Yesterday Is Not Yet Gone, a mystery novel by GabrielVeiga, host of the Very Creative Podcast. Available now, paperback and digital. GabrielVeiga.com. Buy it now.
You talked about your writing process, but is there a specific time in the day that you write? Because I know for me, the morning is the best.
Oh, I love the morning too.
Yeah.
The morning is great. I feel like I work way better when I don't have my phone next to my bed, and I just wake up and grab my coffee and go to the piano or the guitar.
Yeah.
But that's also kind of really hard to control. So, but I do notice that that's like the best way to understand, to just feel the process happening. I honestly love working at night too, but I have to not be tired.
Yeah.
But the mood, the mood is beautiful for writing. I think like morning and night, the middle of the day just feels weird.
Yeah.
For me, the middle of the day is more like I want to record something I've already written before, or like try, versus chasing ideas and stuff. Like it feels a little bit better when there's some sort of magic.
No, I get what you mean, and I get what you mean with the night. There's the mood has a big impact on you and your writing. For me too. Like But I can't do it at night. Even though the mood is there, I feel too tired. I feel too exhausted.
It's hard. You
Yeah.
you gotta be motivated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or I once wrote, but I had a drink in me, so that helped.
That's great.
But yeah, I don't think it's the best writing I've ever done, though. Morning is great.
I think I wrote 21 at night,
Yeah.
but that feels like I wrote it at night
Yeah.
for me.
Right.
Like it's like just because it's so raw. But we wrote Lucky Number during the day, and I can tell. I can tell by the mood of it
Right.
completely. It feels like I'm out in the sun, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know.
Must be so great to because I do you feel like you being in the sun all the time because you're in Florida and Miami and LA but here in Canada it's always winter for me. It always seems to be winter. Does that do you think that helped your process, or do you feel like you would have you would be a different writer if you lived somewhere else?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Totally. I actually love seasons. I loved it when I was in Nashville, like feeling time kind of compartmentalized was really.
You had that in Nashville, okay.
I had that in Nashville, yeah. I mean, it wasn't anything like Canada as far as the winter goes, but there were 4 seasons.
Montreal was the worst, yeah.
Yeah, and I grew up in Miami, where it really just feels like one season,
right?
Like in your memories and in songs and all of that. So I feel like Nashville was beautiful for that reason, but LA, you feel it too, because it does get a little cold. Like you feel the change.
Yeah.
But the sun is beautiful. I need it. Like I think that I'm better in LA than Nashville because it reminds me so much of home.
Yeah.
In Miami, and the ocean and the diversity and the sunshine, and that's all super, super important to me. Like there's a palm tree outside my window, and it was the happiest thing ever for me to move from Nashville and like be like, oh my gosh, I can drink my coffee and look out the window to a palm tree. Like,
yeah.
Like my bedroom that I'm in right now is I look out and it's all palm trees in Miami. Like that's just the atmosphere I grew up in. So
yeah, I know the feeling. I have a place in Florida. My family has a place in Florida.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Where?
In Fort Lauderdale.
Awesome. That's not far.
Yeah, it's not far.
Great.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah.
But I think like, and also my mom's from the Caribbean, so it's just like the places I consider home. Like that's just where I gravitate to, and LA has that, and it definitely affects my process and how I feel centered, you know?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So interesting. Before we end and go to our game, how do you deal with anxiety and mental health? Because for us creative, I always say this on this podcast, but it's so true. People they need to hear this. Like mental health is such a big thing, and especially for creative people, it can get lonely. And you said writing alone, and I feel the writing for me, sometimes I'm like, even though I go through therapy and everything, it just, sometimes it can get into your head and if you're having a block. So how do you deal with it?
With a block? With
anxiety that comes from that, creative blocks. Yeah.
It's hard. I mean, usually I go outside. I call my mom.
Right.
I just talk to people. I try and do other things. I do things that make me happy. Because I think if you focus too much on it, it gets even worse. So it's like, if it's not coming, don't stress it out. Like kind of try and balance yourself to get yourself back to a place where it will naturally, where you naturally get back there. So I just do other things that make me appreciate where I am or feel more in my body. do yoga, I cook, I clean. I stress
That's all
clean
great things. Yeah.
and eat ice cream, and having friends in the industry helps a lot.
Yeah.
I
Good
think
friends, so.
good friends that you can like confide in,
Yeah.
that helps me so much. Like when I get like that and I have people where I can be like, yeah, when they're like, how are you? I can be like, like not really feeling creatively there. And they're like, yeah, I get it. That's okay. Like, don't be hard on yourself. Like you need those people
Right.
that understand and can make that feeling less lonely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. Yeah. So the game is called the Feel Good Game. So what's a movie that makes you feel good? You just watch it to feel good.
The Devil Wears Prada.
That's amazing. Yeah. Yeah.
Or The Princess Diaries. I'm such a girl, but that's totally.
No, I love those movies. You're not such a girl. I mean, yeah, and I love those movies. So.
Yeah.
Princess Diaries. Yeah. What's your feel good TV show?
Oh, what is my? Oh, Grace and Frankie.
Okay.
Do you know that show?
I've watched, I think, one episode.
Oh my God, it's so funny.
I will watch it now. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'll let you know what I think. What's your feel good song?
Always Be My Baby by Mariah Carey.
Yeah.
That's it.
Okay.
It got me through 2020, hands down.
Oh yeah? Why?
Yeah. Because it's like when things were so stressful, I would put that song on and it was like everything releases in the world. So you just want to dance, you just want to sing, you just feel like it's like a high school reunion. Like, I don't know. I just love that song. It feels super like a hug. I don't know how to explain it. But it's just one of those things for me.
Do you have a feel good album that from start to finish that you just play it?
That's hard. I love sometimes like Hall & Oates, definitely Hall & Oates. Indie I love, and Lauryn Hill, but that's like not all feel good. That's like an emotional journey.
Yeah.
Which feels good to me.
Yeah.
But
Is it because of nostalgia or?
I think not because of nostalgia. I think that Lauryn Hill and Indie are two they're very honest, but very strong and experienced women. Like they talk about all aspects of life, and it feels kind of it just feels real.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know how to.
No, it's fine. Yeah.
But it just makes you feel good. Like the way Indie talks about self-love so much, but in a way that's really beautiful and just natural. You can tell that it's her honesty,
Yeah.
And Lauryn Hill is like Miseducation of Lauryn Hill is easily one of the best records ever made. Like it goes through so many different stories of just everyday life and passion.
Yeah.
I think that's what it is. I think it's the passion in the records, then the conviction that like you believe everything they say and you feel like they're right there, you know?
Yeah.
That's why they feel good records to me.
Yeah. I'll watch and listen to all of those and I'll let you know. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on. And I can't believe it. This is so this has been so amazing and you're amazing. And I never expected an episode like this. And yeah, thank you so much for coming.
Well, thank you so much for having me and for asking such great questions.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing. That's the amazing part about it. You shared such amazing stories and it was great to learn about all your journey. And yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you for coming on to the Creative Podcast. The Very Creative. I can't talk anymore, but the Very Creative Podcast. Bryce Drew. Thank you.
Thank you.
You've been listening to The Very Creative Podcast with GabrielVeiga. To find out more, go to GabrielVeiga.com/podcast or find us on social media at The Very Creative Podcast. You can also watch the podcast on YouTube. Just search for The Very Creative Podcast and subscribe.